What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NFT Pirates here. I've got two of my favorite guys in the entire world that have come on for another episode here to discuss, all things Vivi, all things physical collectibles, all things, protein shakes and getting shredded with Danny VR. But yeah, man, looking forward to this chat. How you guys doing?
Amazing, bud.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Man, Sean, your background's looking pretty dope, bro. That's a nice new and improved backdrop, brother.
Thanks. Yeah. It's definitely a work in progress, but it's coming along really well. We have lights attached to the ceilings and stuff. We're trying to do more of a permanent setup because we're going to start doing TikTok videos. Spoiler alert. Yeah. So we're going to do so we're trying to do a more permanent setup. But yeah, it's coming together really well. I didn't realize how many collectibles I had until I started putting them up on the
turning into David Yu.
Yeah,
this is my wife's changing room, my dressing room. I've literally just stuck some bits there because this is actually a green screen.
Imagine. Man, that's jokes, man. Yo, boys, it's good to see you guys, man. I mean, like I was saying earlier before we got on, FUD is like at an all-time high. Comments, people on Twitter. Even I was saying, like, my circle of friends other than you guys, a lot of them are like pretty negative about like the current sentiment and like, things that we even talked about that they discussed, like, comic books and showrooms like a year and a half ago still haven't come to fruition. So people are like kind of like, man, like a lot of promises made and not a lot of delivery. And, I just wanted to like obviously remain optimistic on a lot of these things. And I think we all are, but at the same time, like, also be real about like how you guys are feeling about like the current market and what's going on behind glass doors.
Did you want to start?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, to be honest, it's the same with you. Like my friends are pretty much like in real life, because obviously I was the one that sort of got them into it. Everyone's like, it's all just FUD in the chat constantly. It's like, Vivi's still dead yet? Okay, right. No, but it's yeah, I'll say it's the same with the market, all crypto markets, all NFT markets. It's not just Vivi though, is it? So, but it's difficult for everyone at the minute. But yeah, I say people that are still in it, I think they will do well long term. But it's just the case. This is the best time to be accumulating now, isn't it? When the market is down, this is the best time to be buying. As long as it's bits that you believe in and you think have long term upside, then you'll probably be okay. So nothing's actually fundamentally changed with Vivi. It's still the number one IP with NFTs. It's always going to be because it's always the first on the blockchain. The potential is still there. Nothing's actually changed. It's just being able to look through the FUD and look through basically the market and make the plays now.
Yeah. My level of conviction hasn't changed at all, and I think people just have really high expectations now. With there were some problems. There were some deadlines that were given out, but I mean, ultimately we're seeing progress made on the app. I mean, they're scaling out, they're hiring people. We're seeing progress on the app, and I mean, the search bar is starting to work. I'm searching for comics and collectibles, and it's working. I mean, it's starting to work. That's great.
Yeah, brilliant.
There's still a lot of things that need to be worked on, but they know that there's a laundry list of items of things to work on, but it's going to get there. You just got to be a little patient. But I mean, regardless of all that, it doesn't change my feelings about these collectibles. I mean, they're still licensed by Disney and Marvel, and that's not going to change whether, regardless.
Right. Those are great points, guys. Appreciate bringing that up. And, that's kind of where I'm at as well, is like, I see the long-term vision. I see the massive opportunities at hand. I see what, Marvel Comics #1 SR did in a bull, and now seeing that, giant X-Men Comics #1 come out with 188 editions, Amazing Fantasy 15 SR with 250, Superman #1 Legendary 160. I'm like, man, like now I'm like seeing like, okay, they did that. And I'm like, seeing the scarcity and the popularity kind of mixed together on a lot of these ticket items coming out. So, similar to what you guys both said, if you're convicted and you believe in this project and the products long term, then this should be like a no-brainer, especially as we, run more into the digital age. So, yeah, that's good.
And
Miles Secret Rare is like doubled. It's gone up like 100% in like the last week and a half.
I know.
Yeah, I sent a tweet out that a lot of people didn't like. I compared the market cap of the partner statue to, it was back in January where it's all-time high. There were sales around $40,000, and that's I think $178 million market cap. And I was comparing that to the miles. I was just presenting data, and people I wasn't even giving an opinion. I just said it was just pretty crazy to think about this price. You look at market caps. It's important to think about market caps. Regardless of whatever you think happened during that time, these market caps were real. People were buying at these prices. So I was just comparing data. But regardless of all that, can these collectibles reach those levels again? Who knows? I mean, it's very possible. I mean, I think considering what they've done and continue to do with a lot of people not knowing about this it's very impressive. And we're still seeing ridiculous sales happen on the app. What's interesting too, man? It's Disney could just flip the switch, and we talked about this before many times, but Disney's not marketing these things. They're not marketing them on their social media. They're not marketing them at the parks yet. And that's key, yet, because they're so new, man. It's like, and we've talked about this so many times too, but it's important that we talk about this again, because people got to understand there's still a lot of things that need to be built out. They're still trying to understand the space. But when that happens, they're going to start marketing these things. They're going to start marketing these things to the Disney fans, the people that love this IP. And it's going to change. It's going to change a lot. Just got to be patient.
Yeah. Do you think they'll rebrand the NFT buzzword? Because it's almost as if people, like everyone in NFTs now, or anyone in like crypto, is sort of saying, right, it's got such a stigma behind it now, the word NFT. I think they will end up going to digital collectible or
digital collectibles is the word. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And they've already started using that word more and more, and kind of just ignored that.
Now.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like they took all the the cryptocurrency, the NFT lingo, and blockchain kind of data in the background, and then they're just like, hey, it's a digital collectible, welcome. And it's like, well, what is the significance? And it's like, we have this thing called blockchain. It's like they're trying to like tuck that away, like you said, and make it more like appealing to the masses. But those are really good points you guys bring up, man. And I think like that's one thing is like, if Star Wars, Marvel, Disney, all these things simultaneously start marketing, what other company in the world that's in digital collectibles could have that same kind of impact or magnitude? You know what I mean? If it's not Vivi, right? It's like they have that. And I think that's what everyone's so bullish about is like, and I think Vivi knows it too, is like they've got it all secured. They're the first ones to the blockchain and like 90% of the things. So they're like, listen, guys, like we're already one in a way. Now it's just we got to wait till we have adoption, but like we can't rush the process either, and like the thing is, even for me, man, like with MCP, I'm like obviously excited about it, but it never really appealed to me anyways, because I was always wanted to just collect what I actually want, not what is going to get me like potential raffle tickets for a higher allocation. So are you guys like in it to win it on the MCP? Or are you kind of just like, oh, it's a nice to have but not a necessity?
It didn't really to begin with. That's why, because that was what my collecting strategy was. Because I thought, oh, this is back in like March, like 2021 or April, when they hadn't even really been talking about MCP, but it was always like in the background when they bring out leaderboards or MCP. This is like having sets is going to be the main thing. So I was just buying everything, like pretty much just getting my hands on whatever you could. But there was only about 10 sets in the whole app then at that point. So you just thought, well, I was trying to collect everything. That was my thing that I was doing to get points, and you don't even know what you were collecting them for. And still, sort of 2 years later, the strategy changed about sort of 6 months after that. I think when it was sort of like, okay, well, but at that point, everything was worth something, because basically there was only a few people that had the monopoly on it. But sort of learn fast, or you end up losing out at how the market's being played and how it all works. But it's not something I'm worried about at the minute. I say if it comes out and it's worth collecting more, then I'll look into it again. But at the minute, it's I think they should reward people for holding, that have been holding, for sure. It should be top of their list to reward their holders that have been holding throughout the bear, and it should be their top priority to reward people. Yeah,
same here, Jenny. It's always been IP first for me, and then secondary thought is definitely the MCP, but that could change. I mean, that could really change, especially if the incentives are strong enough, for people to get some of these collectibles. And that could potentially help the entire market if these incentives are good enough, which I'm really excited to see as they roll out over time. And the cool thing is too, I mean, they'll have a certain system, the system set up, but the incentives can change and they will continue to change over time.
Yeah.
I love the idea of potentially, and especially when digital signatures come in, you know, have an opportunity to get signatures from artists that you could just send your collectibles and to get them signed. Yeah. And then you can maybe move the signature around on the cover of your comic or, you know, even your collectible. Like, that's really cool. Really, really cool. Imagine if they collaborated with Todd McFarlane for the Todd statue, people would lose their minds. So there's a lot of opportunity for this stuff. And even physicals too, doing stuff for physicals, like physical comic books. Partner with CGC and do some slabs. Like, there's a lot of cool things that they could do.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That's the thing. I think like every time I talk to you guys, I get more bullish again, you know, but I'm like through waves, man. If I'm sticking on Twitter too much, I get like the negativity and then like people are messaging me being like, oh, it's going to shit. And then I'm like, come and see you guys. I'm like, oh, I'm positive again. Then I listen to a Discord AMA. I'm like, oh, this seems good. But I'm like kind of like on a roller coaster with my emotions, you know? And like, this is where I'm kind of like, I just got to keep focused on the prize. And this is like what they say about a bear market, why it's difficult is most people lack conviction. And then when something runs up to $20,000, that's when they're like, I'm going to buy it for a 2x gain instead of a 50x gain, you know?
Yeah. That's been the kind of the standard for just in general for investing. Now, people are like that way across all markets. But yeah, for sure is bear markets are when people make the most money.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, so it's been that way with like obviously crypto and stuff. I was in crypto before I did Vivi, but Vivi was like it was the first I sort of got in at the exact right time. I didn't cash out at the right time, but unfortunately, you sort of see it play out every single time. Like, I've got friends and family members, and they're like, when it's all up and everyone wants to buy, you're like, everyone's like buying, and then as soon as it goes down, like, there's nothing's actually changed. It's just the market sentiment's changed. But you see, everyone's like calling me an idiot for buying now or buying back then, you know. And then obviously when I'm selling at the top, the next bull cycle, it'll be like, oh, why didn't you tell us? It's like, I was telling you, you know. And I'm done with telling people, you know. It's sort of like it's like a thankless job. If it all goes well, you don't get any thanks, and if it goes wrong, you're in the shit. Like, you're public enemy number one. So
it's true. Wow. But you did buy that Porsche though, Danny. So I mean, you did sell something other time. But you're like, where the heck did you get that, Danny? You're like, oh, don't worry about it, man.
Yeah, I said I got out at a decent time, but not as I could have been a Lambo at one point. But unfortunately not. I settled for a Porsche. But
you can get a green Lambo SR if you want.
Yeah. How much are they now?
A K, I think, just under. Yeah,
pretty reasonable. How many of them are there?
640, but I think 90 or VVs held back, and then 90 were given to like the earliest OMI holders or something.
Really?
So I think there's only like 4 something available, but yeah. But I'm just yeah, it's still cool. Can't drive it though, you know. Maybe you could drive it in AR, but can't go like get like groceries with it. You know?
No.
I put out a short of like, you know, like I'm doing shorts now, Sean. I don't know if you know, on YouTube, right? And I put out one of like the Lamborghini and like me like going in and I have this like sick music, and somebody responded like fake because I put like Lamborghini NFTs, and the next person said like goofy. Right?
They had no idea. They had no idea what it is.
They think it's fake. Like, they literally, I put Miles Morales SR on a short, and I was like, here's the first Miles Morales NFT, and I'm literally getting comments that say like fake as fuck. Like, literally, like, people just think it's all a scam. Like, I'm just like creating these characters and putting them in AR myself and pretending they're licensed. Like, that's how much the world doesn't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a shame. It's but it just goes to show you're so early that the people just aren't going to grasp it until it's too late for them, you know, to get on the bandwagon again.
Yeah, and the thing too, man, like I'm like looking at the users now, right? Like Vivi Fox and Omi Daily Burn put out like stats like almost every month, I think, on like current user base, you know, how many like tokens were minted, how many things were bought up, how many people left, etc. And it looks like, from what I'm seeing, like we're only in like the 7,000s in terms of like active users. But I'm like, do you guys think that's an actual accurate reflection, or do you think there's like potentially more that are just like not being coded right? I mean, not to put any shade on them because I know they're great with stats, but I'm like, you know, from what they were told us about like 2.6 million in the high, I'm kind of like, yeah, that seems like a pretty stark contrast. You know what I'm trying to say? Maybe it's like there was like a, you know, 600,000 or something in the high, but I know a lot of my friends, as an example, bought something and the hype and like never touched it again. At least 20 people I know have done that.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, it's probably about right, because I'd say, yeah, at least of all my friends, like it probably was about 20 of them, like 20 family members and friends, and a lot of them had multiple accounts as well. So at one stage, like people had like 2-3 accounts, and that was pretty normal. I had like 6 accounts at one point, like just probably some stuff I've completely forgot that's on there. But none of them are using it at the minute, because why would they? There's no engagement, there's no reason for them to be on it other than hold their investment. So it's difficult, like, but there's got to be some sort of incentive or reason for them to use it, not just holding it. I say, then it's like with physical collectibles, I'm sort of branching into physicals now, because I do like how, like, I like being able to like see them and touch them and look at them. But then it's no different on a screen, but it is, you know, it's just sort of, it's hard to, I get why, because I'd never collected physicals before Vivi, so I guess that's one good. I bet it's created a lot of collectors, actually, like thinking about it. So they have done a lot of good, like they massively like changed like my view on collectibles, because before it was sort of like I never even thought to collect a load of stuff, and now it's like so nostalgic. It's sort of like, okay, well, this is actually worth money. Like, it's completely opened my eyes to things that are like that I found nostalgic, and I was almost like sort of, I don't know why, but sort of embarrassed to collect like old Pokemon cards or like comic books or things like that, and I don't know why, but now I'm like, I love them. Like, there's something, like, I get them through the post, I'm like buzzing, like, because it's like Christmas morning every time you get a package. So, you know? But yeah, it's definitely created a lot of collectors.
Yeah, it's been amazing over the past year and a half, seeing the impact that it's had on people. And I've met people at Comic-Con events, and there was one guy I met, he's like 55, 16. He said, Sean, I've never, ever collected anything in my life. I've never been to a Comic-Con show. I've never bought any comic books. I've spent over 100K on physical Grails, physical comic books. And it's all because of Vivi. It's all because of Vivi. And that's incredible. Wow. That's a really big deal. This guy was really excited to be there and be part of that experience in person. And it just shows that the impact this has on people. And that's really just by buying these collectibles and sitting on them. You know, you can play with them in AR and stuff, but that's really it. But it's going to change over time. We're going to have the Veve'S, you're going to have AR glasses, you're going to be able to do it. There's a lot of factors that are coming into play that people are going to really be excited about. Really excited about. And I can't wait for play to earn style gaming. Like, that is going to change everything. And people are incentivized to get these collectibles or need them to play in games. And that's where renting, I think, is going to be coming into play. Renting is going to be a really big deal for that reason.
Man, that's so true, bro. And I love rubbing shoulders with a lot of these guys that can go make 100K purchases like that, Sean. Because it's like, you know, like every day I'm getting like texts from Wales being like, oh, he's like, how did you do on the drop? I'm like, oh, I landed a comment. And he's like, oh yeah, I bought 6 SRs and like I matched the show. Thumbs up, nice. You know, like every day, bro. Like, it's motivating though, but it's like goes to show you, like, you know, some people say like, oh, they're not getting enough users. Well, like, let me tell you, these some of these whales I know could probably hold up the fucking whole system themselves right now.
So, what's crazy too is, I mean, even for myself personally, guys, I mean, Vivi actually really kickstarted my love for collecting, because I mean, I wasn't investing in comic books, but it wasn't until really Vivi that I started looking at different things. I mean, like, we got a ton of stuff back here, like VHS tapes now and video games, and I'm obsessed with all these markets, and I believe in these markets long term. It's going to be they're going to be a really big deal.
Yeah, they're getting super scarce. Like, obviously, everything's getting more scarce as well. But I feel like the collectibles market, if you were looking at it, like everything pumped back, obviously in that summer when Vivi pumped as well. But you look at the price of Pokemon cards during lockdown, and the price of all these video games, they went through the roof, like pretty much like 5 to 10x what they are now. So there's some really good deals in that as well. But it's almost like Vivi was sort of practice for like all these other markets, I feel like. But when you think back to the money we were chucking around, like before you could cash out, it honestly makes me sick. Like some of the stuff we were chucking, I'm literally, I literally wake up in the middle of the night sometimes thinking, what the fuck was I doing? Like ridiculous stuff. Like,
I know, like $500,000 trades. Like,
oh god, I was like, managing, I don't know, doing trades for people like 100k going in and out of my Vivi account daily for stuff, and I was like, what the and it didn't even faze me, but because you couldn't take it out, so it wasn't even like it was real money. So you look back, like, even though we knew, like, I think back and I'm like, okay, well, I knew that the gems were going to come out and it was going to be 1-to-1, but it's almost like you didn't believe it. Like, I don't know why, but I always thought, oh, surely they can't be 1-to-1. And people, like, it was like it was just play money. And now I was like, oh, I could have bought a house. I literally could have bought a house with the amount of gems. Yeah, some people that were smart did really well. I think that that just held the gems, just held the gems, and then obviously cashed out, and then they could have rebought back in. But it's time in the market, isn't it? It's pretty much impossible unless you have some inside information or you've been in the market before. But I'll take it all as a learning experience for sure.
I definitely learned a lot from the bull market too. Especially, I didn't sell anything. Sell anything. I sold one of my wallets recently just because because other things are coming up on the app that I'm really excited about, and I still have a couple more wallets left, and I'll always have at least one wallet. That's just gonna happen. I'll always have at least one, and I still believe in Walt. But there's other things that I believe in that recently dropped too. So it's just like got to balance all that out. But most importantly, wait, where was I going with this?
You didn't sell.
Yeah. I learned a lot from the bull market. It's important to figure out a plan where you can have some liquidity put aside. If I sold just a little bit, I could have had X, and I could use that later on. And I've learned that. Definitely moving forward, I'm going to start, selling some things so I do the physical market all the time, but for some reason I decided not to on Vivi. But next time I'll definitely think about that a lot more.
Yeah. It pays to be liquid, man. Because even recently, right? Like the giant size, whatever, X-Men comic, right? Like that one, the SR was like down to like 390 or 400 gems at some point, and now it's like 730. So if you just had like 1,000K liquid, bought 2, waited to the wrist, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, in a way, it does pay to be a flipper, and like that's what I think a lot of people are saying. But at the same time, you can't like blame Vivi for that, to have like the opportunity for secondary market action. It's not like they influence that. These are people that are going in and out. So it's like funny to me. They're like, oh well, you don't get anything for holding, and I'm like, yeah, like I understand that maybe you want to get airdrops and things to that nature, but at the same time, like it's also a risk to be flipping in the market. Like it also goes the opposite way, where and then the thing that people don't talk about much is the fees. Like if let's say you buy that X-Men comic and you buy it at 420 and then you flip it for like 620, you're still going to be paying $50-$60 in fees. And let's say you sold something else, you lost 6% there too. So now you're down 12%. You have to make at least a 20% gain to even be worth your while. And then you probably are going to jump back into the thing that you already sold because you want that back. So it's like, you know what I'm trying to say? It's not as like lucrative as people say. And like perfect example is like Miles SR. Not that it could, maybe it's going to sell at 13K, but my point is like, if you're not in a collectible, all of a sudden out of nowhere, the price could just like rise like that. And then if you're not holding on, same with AF15 SR, it was like 10K. Now it's like 13K sitting there. So that's the other piece to it too, is like, it's not like flippers are just making mad money unless they're botters that are just getting in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's completely changed from like, I mean, back when you could make money consistently from every drop, like that was when it was like super fun, like because but that was when there was massive liquidity in the market. People had free money to spend, so it's all the crypto markets were going up and that money was flooding in. People were taking profits, it was just, people had a lot more money, and it was like during lockdown quite a lot of it as well, so people were doing on it less. I mean, I was literally fully addicted to trading on the market, like completely. I literally you'd wake up excited to check the market. I've become completely addicted, but it was fun. Like I made so much money just doing that, but it was just a game. It's like trading. So I used to play a game called RuneScape, and it was literally like just being sat in the GE, just trading items all day. Just become obsessed with it. It was a lot of fun though.
Yeah, man. Do you remember that trade I did with you? It was for the low mint Elsa for I think it was like 8K or something at the time. And then I immediately got you to go buy me a partners before it ran up. Remember that? And then thank God we did, because it ran up to like 13-14K.
Yeah, it's like 5K in a day profit. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. No, it is crazy, man. Yo, so I got a thing I want to share with you guys. It's an idea I've been thinking about, and I want to see what your take is. I want to explain it to you guys. So basically, right now, we're seeing that like Binance, as an example, other places like artificial liquid intelligence are creating like these like AI generated NFTs, essentially meaning that like, somebody doesn't have to go and like sit down for hours, create like what this is going to look like, the branding, whatever. Like you pretty much just spitting it out for you, right? At mass. You keep putting ideas. I want a wizard with these kind of traits, make it all randomized, do that, X go, and it'll be able to spit it out, right? So my point to that is like within the next few years, I presume that a lot of NFT projects are going to be like mass saturated because anybody and their uncle now could start an NFT project with this kind of technology. Now, the thing that I'm not seeing is that like with massive IP like Disney, Marvel, etc., like even if somebody wanted to use AI to like create a new stance of Darth Vader, like it doesn't really matter because it's not licensed by these huge companies, which in my opinion is just going to like, hold on to the scarcity of these FAs and the significance of them from licensed IP. And then at the inverse with all these NFT projects everywhere else, they're just going to come at like even a higher amount of times and like way more frequent. And so I don't know, I see like a big vision for digital collectibles. So like licensed digital collectibles. So that's what I want to share with you guys to see if, you think that's accurate or if that's just me stretching.
Yeah, for sure. Like that AI stuff is crazy though. Like from some of the stuff you can see it do. Like I've been creating art with it. Like
it came out of nowhere too. Just all of a sudden overnight, here's AI for everything. What the hell? It just came.
I made you can't really see it, but like so that this is a beach where I live, and it's in the I basically took a picture online, right? And I put it into this the AI the Discord bot. I can't remember what it's called. But put the picture in and then just did it in the style of this famous artist. It was like the Great Wave of Katagawa, like the famous Japanese painting, and literally just spat out. It's literally the beach. It's got like Mount Fuji in the back. It's just crazy. I printed it off. It's just literally like, I don't know why I've done it. To be honest, I've no idea. But I thought it looked cool.
That's wild.
But there's so much stuff you can do. But yeah, those NFTs, it will completely make the IP way more valuable. That's
Ooh.
it.
Yeah. So my brother Carson actually drew this for me.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. But the crazy part is like kind of similar to what you said there, Danny, is like you might be able to be like, okay, I want to get like Spider-Man made in the style of like Clayton Crane or some shit or Stan Lee, and then like spit that out through me on AI, and you could print it, put a fake signature on there, and like nobody would know really the difference. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's getting wild.
Yeah,
and that's why metadata is so important.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, being able to prove what's legit, what's actually IP. And if anything, it'll make the IP stronger because you know it's provable like on the blockchain. So if anything, it's good for these licensed IPs and the first NFTs in the long term. So like even more bullish on it, to be fair.
Yeah, like when Clone X first came out, they weren't purchased. Artifact Studios was not purchased by Nike at the time.
Yeah.
And Takashi Murakami, who's one of a huge Japanese artist, he was the one who designed. I don't know if he designed the entire collection or just some of the characters, but he was involved, and it really took a lot of attraction to a lot of people. And then eventually Artifact Studios got bought out by Nike. So now it's basically a Clone X is basically a Nike project now. But it's because you had a big artist that backed it, that was involved in the creative process. That's a huge deal. I mean, just like a Batcals, Jim Lee was involved in that. Jim Lee's one of the top, I would argue he's top 3 artists of all time. Top 5 for sure. Yeah. So you have these big names, these big artists involved in these projects. That's what makes it really significant, regardless of AI. Unless it looks unbelievably cool, but names licensed, really big deal. Very important. I think it's going to be more significant. And that's how you're going to differentiate value or put value in something long term. So, yeah.
So that's where it gets scary though, because then it's like, okay, what's the point as an example? Like when CGI has become so amazing that it's pretty much like, real life, Will Smith or Tom Cruise or any of you guys are just going to live forever because they're just going to be like put into new movies, and there wouldn't be an actual point to hire somebody new to put them in because you would just pay these guys royalties even long after they're dead, because like everyone, so these names will carry forward. And like, that's where it's kind of interesting. Cause I'm like, okay, like how much of this is going to shift? And then even the other thing that I think about is like, them be able to like randomly simulate like presidents, politicians, etc., saying something that was completely artificial, and like you said earlier, without like the metadata or like evidence, like basically backing that up, that interaction up, like the world's gonna get messy pretty damn quick. Like it's just gonna be a clusterfuck of things happening, and if people aren't intelligent enough, like they're gonna get pretty ran over pretty quick.
And we're seeing that already on OpenSea. I mean, people are buying things that they think is real, but it's not. It's already happening. That's a big reason too why I really appreciate Vivi so much, because I trust the brand, and I trust that the collectibles that they're making, I know that they're all licensed because they're dropping on Vivi. It's a product that I can put faith in. But for example, and again, no disrespect to the recent Mona Lisa drop, but there's a lot of controversy around that one because who is it really licensed by? I mean, it's in the public domain. So for me, it's doing well, and congratulations to anybody who was able to succeed on that drop. But long term, I personally question its value for that reason. They really didn't really come out, in my opinion, on the website. I couldn't find any information on it. I know people asked on social media, and they didn't really say anything about their partners, and we don't really know who the partners are. So the collectible looks cool, but it's not really licensed by anybody. If it was licensed by like the Louvre, that's cool, because it's licensed by the museum that's holding the actual Mona Lisa. That's rad. I can get behind that.
Right.
But for that reason, I mean, what's going to stop the next, big company to drop a Mona Lisa? I don't think it'll happen on Vivi unless it's partnered with a big, a licensor. So yeah, that's a good example though, where people are putting a lot of faith in something right now that I question long term.
Yeah, it says on the I'm just reading the OpenSea now. It says this is the first ever officially licensed Mona Lisa NFT, but it doesn't say who it's licensed by.
Who's it licensed by? Yeah, exactly.
It says Elman X, which obviously is not licensed by Da Vinci.
Yeah, that's the company that, or the website that dropped the collectible, but
right,
the collectible itself, who's it licensed by? Because it's in the public domain. So
yeah.
Right.
So it says
people are going to be disappointed long term because of it. And again, that's just my opinion, not financial advice, guys. But yeah, I had a feeling it was going to have a good run up in the short term, but it was long term.
This is interesting. I've just gone on their website and they're on Vivi, that Elman X.
Yeah, so they used to be Vtail, I think, and they used to be Vtail, right? Yeah, right, because they've collaborated with a couple of the artists on Vivi.
Yeah, Patrick Hughes.
Hughes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Patrick Hughes.
Yeah, so that's
and they're a legit company. Yeah, Vtail and they're a legit company, but again, that specific collectible, I just, it's hard for me to have faith in it without a strong licensor behind it.
Yeah, it's like surely someone. I mean, obviously that's where that picture is in the pub. What's to stop another company coming out?
Right.
And, you know what I mean, and printing
100%.
And then saying they're the first one. There's probably going to be a massive slew of.
Or if the Louvre drops one, Louvre drops one, it's licensed by the Louvre.
Yeah,
that's something I would go ahead and try to buy.
Yeah,
it's licensed by one of the biggest museums in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying these are important things to think about long term.
Yeah. That's super interesting. Kind of reminds me of like, I don't know if you guys remember, but it was like some kind of Stormtroopers project that was dropping.
Right. Oh,
and then they didn't have the official license from Star Wars, so they like canned it, which makes sense. But I remember being like, oh, everyone was asking, oh, is this like an official Star Wars product? Because how could you be dropping Stormtroopers? And then it just like kind of fizzled away.
So the guy who originally created the mask, and again, Kevin knows this full story. He's a better person to ask, but I think there was a lawsuit about the rights to using the mask, and I think he won, and I think he was involved in that NFT project. So it's from the guy who was involved in that. But again, I don't really know for sure. Just do your own research on that one. But I think that's somewhere in that world. That's where the story goes.
Yeah, makes such a big difference, doesn't it? Because it's like if you can prove, or you have someone I imagine if Walt Disney, like say Walt dropped on OpenSea right now, and it was officially licensed by Disney, I feel like people would go mad for that. It'd be everywhere.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? Which is strange.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're going to see D23 in the future when AR becomes mainstream. We're going to see this stuff advertised like crazy.
Man, and that's where it's going to be like, there's only 4,333 people in the world with this. And then people are going to be like, damn, what was I doing? Right. And
you can
like,
buy, sell, and hopefully trade in the future instantly worldwide. Like that is accessibility to me is the key. Is the key.
Yeah.
Utility on top of that potentially, and there's so many things they could do. I say when you start talking about it and thinking about it, it's so easy to slip back into that, like, oh, okay, this is the reason why we started this in the first place. The reason why the potential was there. With this slew of hate and FUD on Twitter and Discord and stuff, that you get sucked into it, and it's like, oh,
that's true.
It's so easy to get turned off and sort of buy into the FUD. But then you've got to go against the grain, because that's the only way you make money, and the only way you know what I mean, the only way it can you can make it work for you. But you got to hold through the shit.
Yeah, and you got to understand what you're collecting too. Like I have to initiate like my principles around this. I'm like, okay, wait a second. Okay, let's look at Oswald. I'm like, okay, it's Disney's 100-year celebration. It's their first digital NFT for the first product that ever came out before Disney. And it's like, and I'm like, wait a second. And they're dropping this exactly 100 years after their inauguration. And like, you start doing all the math and you're like, wait a second, there's only 4,000 of these and they're 40 gems. Like this, I think this is a good buy. And I'm like, what? Then I look at it like this. I'm like, the risk of not collecting is like greater than the risk of collecting it. And it's still going to like a shitty amount. Cause I'm like, let's say I buy it for $40. Okay, fine. All-time low is $17.50. I lost $23. But if it ever goes back to where we were before, I'm up $400 or $500. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Just risk the reward, isn't it? It's like with trading and stuff. You got to pretty much just set your risk tolerance and be prepared to lose, or be prepared to lose a certain amount on certain collectibles or crypto. And if you got to be able to convince yourself that it's a good buy. You'll come out right in the end. If it's if it goes the way we all think it's going to go, but you just got to be able to talk to people, like-minded people, and then sort of convince yourself that this is, because that's all the market was back in the day. You just literally talk to like 2 or 3 of you and be like, actually this is significant, and then you go and buy it, and then like a few more people catch wind and you talk about it in a Discord, you share it with one friend, and then by the end of the day it's like run up 10x.
Things were really moving, man. Like, and like you guys said, like those groups of like, it didn't even have to be many people. Like even like some of these these smaller Discords that are like private, 10, 20 people in there all starting to talk about something. And it's like, wait a second, guys, somebody brings an insane idea to the table. And then you're like, whoa, like,
But to add to your point about Oswald, I mean, that does actually make a lot of sense. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Givenchy has actually partnered with Disney to sell licensed clothing, including shirts and stuff. And Oswald, I mean, they have some animated shorts with Oswald and like 101 Dalmatians, and they're selling T-shirts that are like $500 each on their platform right now. Yeah.
Like you're saying, like on like the actual website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on Givenchy's website. Yeah,
so crazy. And that's where I see the fashion going too, like on your avatar in the future. So that's pretty amazing that there's already that partnership, because maybe who knows where it started. Maybe Givenchy was on Vivi, and then all of a sudden Disney noticed that too, and they're like, hey guys, let's chat. I don't know.
Can you imagine wearables? Yeah, wearables on Vivi, like that's inevitable too. I think. You're gonna have massive brands come in that want to partner with them and sell exclusive one-of-ones and short editions. I can't imagine what those are going to go for.
Oh my god,
it's crazy.
So I put out a tweet. It was I don't know if you guys can see that, but
I responded to that.
Yeah. All right, so Danny, Sean, here we go, buddy. Oh man, my camera's out of focus here. What would you guys rather have, Sean? I think I already know what you want. AF-15 SR, Marvel 1 SR, a Miles Morales SR, or Superman #1 Legendary? What are you taking, Danny?
I think the AF-15 SR.
That's so tough. That's so tough. Yeah, I mean that Miles Morales is one I really regret not getting involved in from the beginning. So well done, Chad, for making the moves on that one and having the foresight. Because I mean, the biggest thing too is the popularity's there and the scarcity is insanely there. I mean, that's why I did that market cap tweet, because it shows like the potential where this could all go for Miles.
Right.
I mean, the sky's the limit for that thing. But even Superman 1 too, man. I AF-15 SR, AF-15 is just, man, that's just a special comic.
Like 250.
Those are tough. Those are all tough.
250, bro. Like
Yeah.
think about that.
That's it.
So here's a question on the A15 actual, the physical comic. Do you know what the total census is for the amount of comics there? Is it a few thousand?
Yeah, it's
And-
a couple thousand. I think it's close to between 2,000 to 3,000.
And then anywhere over like a 9.0, what are we looking at? Like max 80, 70, maybe not even.
Yeah, let's see. Well, the
So-
absolute high ceiling, you have two or three, or I think 3 or 4 9.6s now. And
Okay.
they're
There's
about
6, but 2 of them are restored.
Okay, yeah. So the blue label is just, I think it's 3 or 4, maybe 4, and the highest sale ever was 3.6 million. But I think that would probably sell for over $5 million now at this point.
Yeah.
Even during a bear market. So a 9.0, I think probably looking at a few hundred thousand, probably like 300,000 probably. Am I close, Danny?
Yeah. So there's the sale. So there's 30 total of the 9.0s. So there's 50 total above 9.0 grade, and over half of them are restored. So I'm not sure what the highest sale is.
Interesting. So this is where like the next question falls into you guys, because like, okay, we keep talking about first appearance, right? First appearance on the blockchain. Oh my, and like this was like, the thing that I was really into and like still am, and I think we all are, and I think everybody fucking is, to be honest. Like, so it's not like this is a unique concept. Like this is something that grabbed the balls and like took the bull by the horns. Like, so this is like something people believe in, right? But I'm gonna throw this at you because I've been talking with a few of my buddies that were in here early and now are losing a little bit of confidence. And they're like, bro, this is not the first appearance. Like the first appearance was Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy 15 in the physical, 70 plus years ago or whatever, right? He's like, now he's like, all this is first on chain. He's like, we got to start like distinguishing the value to be like, okay, this isn't like a redo where it's like just as significant. It's like the same product that was in many different mediums, including facsimiles, that has now come to the blockchain. And he's like, I'm not saying it's not significant, because he's like, it's first on chain, but he's like, yeah, I think we need to be careful with what it means. He's like, it should be like FOC, first on chain, rather than like FA, because he's like, the new things like Mutant Apes, Bored Apes, Clone X, that's FA. Like it's created there and it's the first time. And then like, we'll see whether or not that's IP becomes sustainable. But he's like, so, and I said to him, I'm like, I get it. But I'm like, at the same time, we're entering a new world in the digital world where like we're gonna have metaverses, all these things. I'm like, unless you want to take your plastic graded 9.8 Amazing Fantasy 15 into the metaverse with you, and I'm like, and try to like show it off through like your friggin' camera, I'm like, it's not gonna work, dude. So I'm like, we need to get that next iteration somehow too, and that's what that is. So anyways, that's the conversation. It's a big argument right now I'm having with him.
So just really quick to backtrack a little bit, the 9.0, the last sale was in 2017 for about $400,000. And it's probably about a $700,000 comic today, somewhere around there.
Wow.
Yeah, for a 9.0. So when you were that conversation, was it focusing specifically on digital collectibles, or like the statues, or the actual comics, or both? Either or. I
mean, it was kind of both, because like, but I think sticking with the comics, I think for simplicity's sake first, because it's like it's just an extension of like the market share, but not necessarily like a new market cap, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I had Sleepin said it best. Sleepin Comics, big shout out to Sleepin. He said this is a chance to invest in the original IP. That's really how I view it too.
Yeah.
They're connected. They are definitely connected. Like if that, so let's say Fantastic Four 1, there's only 296 grades ever. They've never sold publicly. If that, I believe really strongly, if one of those comics did sell, and tomorrow it would sell for 8 digits. I think it would sell for over $10 million.
Wow.
If that happened, how do you think that would affect the digital market for the FF1s?
Right.
I presume that it'd probably help. So,
for sure. Yeah.
Right. So it's easy to presume that. So for that reason, I think we can all agree that there's definitely opportunity there. There's definitely a connection with those comics, digital and physical comics. And same with digital. If we see big sales for the digital side, I think that'll probably help the physical too.
Mm-hmm. So here's another thing that's interesting, right? Like when we think about like some of these comics that come out, like let's give an example, like Black Panther, right? Fantastic Four number 52 comes out. SR is like, I think 450 right now. And I think like a 9.8 of that comic in real life is like, I don't know, at least in the $50,000 plus range, like maybe 70,000. Maybe Sean, I don't know if you know that figure.
So I think it sold a recent sale was around 60 or 70,000, but that was a couple of years ago. I think that would sell for over probably $150,000-$200,000 today.
Okay, so nice. So 150 to 200, but I could go to like a comic shop and get like a pretty crappy raw copy of it for like $500. You know what I'm trying to say? And then this is where I find it interesting because I'm like the NFT version, even though there's a lot more mints or editions, it'll be pristine forever. You can hold on to it. But like if you still want a piece of that market share, you could still go buy a lousy, physical copy. But it's just like you could still be a part of it. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's just like I'm just interested to see how this is all going to play out. I think there's still a lot of questions.
I think accessibility is going to be a bigger deal than people realize. Having the opportunity to buy, sell, and trade these things instantly around the world is a huge, huge, huge deal. I mean, there's been some really cool, interesting tweets recently by Eric Whiteback, the collectible guru, the awesome guy, by the way. Big shout out to him. He tweeted out, or he did a video on this on TikTok, and it talked about how Customs destroyed this graded Pokemon game that was worth $3,000 or $4,000. They just destroyed it. They're trying to ship it, I think, overseas, and Customs destroyed it. Like there's a barrier to entry because of this. It's happening all the time. It sucks, but it's real and it's happening, and you can get around it. And I know physical collectors, they're nervous to send big comics just in the States. Overseas, forget about it. Like they're not interested because of the headache that it's probably going to include. I know people in certain parts of the world, I can't even send them anything because they have corrupt mailing systems. So, but I was sending them these digital comics when I could send things, and I think that'll come back eventually, hopefully. But yeah, I mean that's a really, really big deal. So I think, especially when you have opportunities to display these collectibles and use them and show them off, people outside of just your phone, people are really, really getting excited about this stuff.
Yeah. You see, the price of FF1. I know we were talking about the highest sell of FF1 and like all of those. What is it? There's only I think the last sale of a 9.2 was 1.5 million, like earlier on in the year, and the floor at the minute is 26 gems for the common of the same thing. Yeah, that seems so cheap, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I know Marvel Comics 1 is incredibly significant on the app, but it's interesting because I talked to a lot of physical collectors and they're like, Marvel Comics 1. I mean that's interesting because that comic. Why are people so crazy about it?
Yeah,
because it's a very historically, it's a beautiful comic. It's got a lot of history behind it, but not a lot of pop culture value. And that's what FF1 has. It's got history and pop culture value, which is a really, really big deal. Right. I mean, it's got everything going for it, and they haven't even been in the MCU yet. Like there's a film coming out in a year and a half, and we're probably going to hear casting news very soon, actually, very, very soon. And their popularity is only going to grow. And that comic, man, sky's the limit for that comic. Jeez.
I think the prices of all this stuff as well, like the physicals, is like it's only going to get more scarce because obviously unless someone finds some big deposit of things. That's why I do quite like I see the massive appeal of the physicals now because it's like you can tuck it away in a safe, or it's sort of liquid as well. Like the collectibles market's like really liquid as well. Like and people tend to hold on to stuff. Like people that own these pieces, they're not going to sell it for a loss, like typically, because they're happy to hold it. That's the reason they bought it. So that's what it was sort of like with the NFTs as well. You sort of become attached to them. Like especially if you've like been like you wanted to get that Grail for ages, and you become sort of like it becomes almost like a part of you. Like you don't want to sell it. You certainly don't want to sell it for a loss. So people are more likely to hold on to it. Yeah. Whereas sort of like crypto, people don't. There's no like mental attachment to it.
Right. You know what's interesting too? I just thought of. Have you guys heard of Rally? Right? Rally.
No.
So basically, it gives you an opportunity to invest in collectibles. You can buy shares.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, right.
So in a way, it's kind of similar. Like with these, on that app or that website, you can invest in collectibles, like specific graded collectibles, and as that collectible goes up in value, so will your shares. But this is an opportunity. It's a little bit different. You can buy into the IP still, but you can enjoy it and use it as a collectible, which I think is really cool.
Be interesting to see if the NFT market sort of follows and tracks like the physical, like if it ends up sort of tracking the physical market as well. Like say Marvel Comics 1 sells for like 10 million in like 5 years time or something like that. There's a sale of $10 million. Would the value of the NFT then shoot up significantly because of that? because they'll be sort of seen as like fractional shared ownership
Mhm.
as a part of the IP.
Right.
You see what I mean? Is like part of that group. They'll sort of be tied in together eventually. They'll start mirroring each other.
I would imagine so. I mean, recently, remember the video we did about a year and a half ago on that Mickey Mantle rookie card, that
Yeah.
1-of-1 NFT? Well, there was a sale about 6 months ago, I think. It was a 9.5 grade from SGC, and it sold for $12.6 million. I think to this day that's probably the highest card that's sold ever. And the 10s are estimated to sell for, I mean, Jeremy Paddler tweet this out often. He says that he thinks it will sell for over $30 million. Like $30 to $40 million. One of those 10s. There's only 3 of them. And do you think that's going to help the NFT, the 1-of-1 NFT? I think so. That sold for like 400 grand. You don't think that's worth probably 1 or 2 million now?
Right.
I don't know. Time will tell, but I feel pretty good about it.
And man, like the edition sizes are still like pretty scarce. Like when you start thinking about like you said the size of these comics, pretty much is the first edition, first on the chain, like it's licensed, first time it's been licensed. So these are the ones that are going to stand the test of time. And it's like, even at 60,000 editions, from the size of the market, cap for like people that like want a Fantastic Four #1, Amazing Fantasy 15 SR, like all these things that are like super grails, like they're still small. Like think about it, 90 are held back by Vivi. Then there's 160 remaining of Amazing Fantasy 15, right? You can go to your local grocery store and see more people walking around than the total holders of that current comic right now. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Like it's fucking scarce. Like, and that's where like when we get the bull market back and finally we start getting the adoption into these NFTs and people are like, okay, what's the most significant? Like these things should be like in principle, you would expect unfathomable price points on some of this stuff,
Yeah,
for sure. Like I feel like Vivi should be like the community side of it was what was always the driving force of it. I feel like they need to like perhaps implement some sort of like voting system to what they're prioritizing. Like I don't know. I know obviously they're their own business, but the community side of it is what's always going to be the driving factor. I think like it's if they have the community here, like obviously, but we're doing stuff like this, obviously getting the word out because we enjoy doing it. It's fun, but if they had some sort of like way to engage the community as well, like putting out votes and things like that, and what they're prioritizing, like work wise, and let us know. I know the community updates and things, but there hasn't been a community update in a while. I don't think, is there?
No, they're probably not going to do one. I don't think they're doing one in March. I don't think so.
No, but it's obviously like it's not the right. I don't know if it's the right time to sort of push things out because obviously the market and the whole crypto, obviously the world situation, financial situation is obviously in the toilet as well. So it's difficult, but I still feel like they need to be a bit more transparent with what they're doing, like just so we know what's going on. Like I don't really know it's difficult to keep up with it now. It's sort of like what's going on, what sort of stage we're at.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have some type of communication. I feel like they have been doing that with that checklist, and they've done a pretty good job. But at the same time, I'd rather have them just keep their heads down and focus on getting these checklists done. That's what I feel like they've been doing for the past few months. I feel really good about the progress that's being made. I mean, at the same time, even let's say MCP comes out, let's say all the updates on the app are finished. We're still like there's still a lot of barriers to entry, especially Web3. The technology hasn't caught up yet, and that's out of their control. So there's a lot of things that need to happen for all this to really take off, and it's just going to take time. Really, I mean, really, it's just going to take time.
Yeah. Where are we at with Pokemon? Do you still think we got Pokemon then?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I'm not gonna like guarantee it for sure. Like I have no idea, but I think like the amount of times we were trolled about Pokemon is like what like tells me. And then the fact that we have Alfred Kahn, who is the only person that like is really like the biggest licensor for Pokemon that happens to be tied into Vivi. I mean, there's just a lot of signs. Like David Yu was like grew up basically selling Pokemon products. I mean, the connections certainly are there.
He still has that license too.
Yeah. Apparently. So it's like I mean, but at the same time, I look at like something like Pokemon Go, and I'm like, oh my god, imagine they just like upgraded this game for these Pokemon to be NFTs and like kind of figured it out that way too. It's like so you can't guarantee it, but bro, put it this way: if Pokemon comes back, I've said this 100 times before, like hide your kids, hide your house, get all.
It's whether or not they drop on. I mean, I think that's one of the few licensors that are like they can just do something entirely on their own. Will
Yeah.
they'll drop on Vivi? I hope so. I really hope
Yeah.
so. But I mean, that's one of my examples I give for people to understand NFTs. Like Pokemon Go, it's a cool app. You know, you travel around and you can capture Pokemon, but you can't battle. I mean, unless there's been changes recently, but you can't really battle. And even if you can, it's not like really cool, like an AR, like how I would imagine it would be. Like full on. I mean, just imagine like PlayStation 5 or, you know, Pokemon Smash Brothers. Like you actually see Pokemon battle, but the opportunity to have a collectible that you can buy, sell, and trade, you know, a Pokemon character. It's not just something that's built within the app. It's an actual asset that you can help grow and create value. That's really special. And that's what Pokemon can do with NFTs. And that's inevitable. It's going to happen. You're going to be able to use geolocation and travel around different parts of the states or the world and capture Pokemon and actually see them through AR. But that's going to be, that's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, not if, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's if they. I mean, it's with Pokemon Go, they pretty much got it sort of nailed down. It's just if they made them assets that you could trade, like and use that were owned by you and actually had real world value, like for people owning them. But I think they've got. I think we're years off it yet. To be fair, like with Pokemon, I think it's one of those things they've got to get perfect, and it's got to be the right time.
Yes.
It's got to be everything that the stars have got to align perfectly for it to be successful. I mean, Pokemon will always be successful, but I don't think dropping them in a bear market would be the wisest thing to do.
They're very sensitive brand and very sensitive. The same with Nintendo.
Yeah,
they don't gamble. You know,
no,
now they're just exactly, and they're especially strict. But so is Disney, and that's what people keep forgetting. Like Disney gave all their IP to Vivi. Like guys, I mean, people don't understand how crazy that is. They have no understanding how insane that is. That alone makes me so bullish on the future of Vivi as a company.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the number one reason why I'll always just ignore the FUD. That's all you got to focus on.
It's true. There's your answer right there. It's like if it's good enough for Disney, why isn't it good enough for you?
Yeah, Disney's not going to take a chance on a company like that. And if they don't 100% have faith and trust them,
man. And just going back to some of these edition sizes again, I know it's like we're really feeling the size of these edition sizes because we're in a bear market. Vivi in total edition sizes has dropped over 8 million NFTs, right? But Pokemon has printed more than 32 billion cards, which is 4 times the world population. And so when you start to think about like relativity with some of these things, and like, again, that's just Pokemon, that's one brand. Vivi has, tens of brands, dozens of brands right now. It's probably going to be over 100 soon enough. And, you think about it from all these different angles. So like, think about that, like over 30 billion cards printed, right? Now, I'm not saying all of them are worth something or not. Like some of them, most of them are probably in the recycling bin right now, but like, it just goes to show you that like some of them really stood out. And that's really how I see Vivi from the beginning, is like some of this massive IP, like even like Darth Vader, even though there's 5,000 editions or 6,000, I'm still like, hey, like that's Darth Vader, guys. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's such a small edition run considering the popularity of IP. Yeah.
And it's hard to see it in a bear market. And like, and I always tell people this, what I screwed up on last time is I was here and Danny and Sean, we were here, bro. And I was buying the gold Mooglies. I was buying all the scarce stuff because I was like, and now that same scarcity exists within the most popular IP in the world for some items. And so I'm like, only like, when we get back to another bull run, when we saw the popular items shoot up, I'm like, it should be the same across the board for the stuff that really matters, right?
Yeah. And you can see it will definitely change as well. Like I say, it is coming. The next bull market inevitably will happen, and they all will go up. Like everything will go up, and people will start buying again. It is going to happen. It's just making sure you're the right side of it when it does. Like you got to think, well, how much lower can we go? And some stuff will go to zero and will be worthless and end up in the recycling bin, like a lot of the Pokemon cards. But it's just making sure you pick the right ones. I say I've still got a few Waltz and bits like that I believe in, and stuff like a few of the like sort of Grail comics. It's just making sure you're on the right side of it.
Yeah. And for you guys, Sean, at Comics and Crypto, when you guys are like, doing like the analysis or the analysis rather of like all the comics that have come out on Vivi and the ranking for that, how how much does that reflect the actual market prices? Not that you're influencing them, but like, is it like, for instance, like number one would be Amazing Fantasy SR, and also it's also the most expensive. Like, is it pretty much like the same across the board, or how does that work?
Yeah, we assess everything. We assess the physical scarcity and popularity, the digital scarcity and popularity, and also the value on both physical and digital. Is there speculation on the comic? So we put everything into account. It's getting really hard to rank these, especially like Giant Size X-Men 1 that just dropped.
Yeah.
I mean, I own that physical comic it's one of my favorite comics that I own. I'll never sell that one because it's signed by 5 legends and 3 of them have passed, including Stan Lee. Jeez. So like it could be one of the only comics that have that many signatures. I've gone through Go Collect and I've only seen like a couple, but it's pretty cool. So it's impossible to replace those signatures. So for me, yeah, it's especially like around Amazing Spider-Man number 2, which is like a $300,000-$400,000 comic in its highest grade, and Giant Size X-Men, but there's only a couple, like maybe 2 or 3 graded comics in its highest grade. Whereas Giant Size X-Men number 1, you have like 250. So, and that's why it's only like a $30,000-$40,000 comic. It went up to about 70,000. But comparing that's why this comic is so incredible, because it's insanely popular. I mean, there's not many comics that have a 220 CGC census at a 9.8 or its highest grade, and it's worth $30,000 or $40,000. Hulk 181 is another example. The first appearance of Wolverine, which when that drops on Vivi, that's going to be a fire comic too. So it has like 150 editions and it's $100,000 comic. Wow. 150 9/8. Yeah. Because a lot of these comics, like they only have 1 or 2 or maybe 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 editions in its highest grade. 220. And it's still worth $40,000. That's amazing. That's why I like these. And then you look at the digital collectibles. There's only 188 SRs and 7,500 total editions across the entire collection. And even physicals, there's like 12,500, I think, physicals on the CGC census, which is a really high too. That's a really high edition count.
Yeah. What's the situation with Immutable X now? Because I haven't heard a bit about that. Because obviously we went over and it was all going to be this massive thing. Like, now we're on ETH finally, and it was like, oh, now the money from ETH is going to float in, which I generally still think it will do. But we haven't had anything about that in a long time. Like, it'd be nice to have some update on if we'd be able to buy and sell comics on Immutable, or do you know what I mean? If there's, even if there was some sort of database that said, because if you look on there, go on like the largest like trading volume, and if you look on the OpenSea trading volume, if you compared it to what Vivi was, Vivi would be literally at the top of everything, because of literally the daily trading volume on some of the stuff, especially when in the peak of the bull market, we were like trade hundreds of thousands a day, like millions of dollars a day would sort of change in hands. But there's no database at all of this stuff, and people with ETH that are sort of sat in the sidelines, we've been saying it from the beginning, they would go mad for these massive IPs, but there's no entry because none of them are going to trade cash for their ETH. There's got to be some sort of, I don't know if crypto paying when that comes, it's sort of like a gateway in, but I think there should be some sort of transparency on that stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're testing out users, I think, every day for the crypto pay-in. They just want to make sure they get it right. And then again, I'm fine with stuff taking time as long as they do it right. That's really important.
Yeah. Man, I think that's it, right? It's like we got to start like scaling out here a little bit and being like, okay, like we're a year and a half in, almost 2 years, right? But that's like for the people that got in like right away. So it's like we're really like a year and a half in for most people, and then even like for some people, they're like 6 months in. And NFTs are a concept that have been like blasted across the continuum. And it's like, here we have now digital collectibles, and that word just kind of started like within the last 6 months. And then it's like, we don't even have AR yet. We don't even have VR really working yet. We don't even have like people understanding blockchain. I went to lunch with a work colleague the other day, and I was literally showing her an NFT, and she's like, what is this? She's like, this is so hilarious. She's like, why is that worth that much? And I'm like, let me explain it to you. She's like, shut up. She's like, shut up. Like she couldn't even like handle like, and I couldn't even explain it to her. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's where the majority people are. And this is first world countries, guys. Yeah. We're not even talking about like, where do you think people are when they're surviving for food right now? They don't give a fuck about this stuff.
Right.
So they shouldn't.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. When these AR glasses come out, I mean, we're talking about worldwide adoption, but that's going to take years. It's going to take years.
Yeah.
That's the
It's gonna
truth
take
of it.
years, man.
And you look at AR glasses when they're going to be dropped by Apple. It's probably going to cost $2,000-$3,000, and they're going to be very limited. But it's going to take the 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition. It's going to take maybe 5+ years before the stuff is even fully adopted worldwide, because you have to have cheaper AR glasses for people to buy in different parts of the world for there to be worldwide adoption.
Right.
That barrier of entry again, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, boys, that was a good little catch up. We're always like, obviously we could talk all day, but I just want to make sure that people have got time to get back to their work, their businesses, collecting. But yeah, you guys know who these two guys are, so give them both a follow. What do we got there?
We're gonna do a giveaway soon.
We're
gonna be announcing it soon. We did an interview with Eric Whiteback. A big shout out to Eric, the collectible guru. His content's incredible. Make sure to give him a follow. But we're gonna do a collaborate on a giveaway, and we're gonna give away a physical She-Hulk, and this is a actual from the 70s. A She-Hulk.
Wow.
So, yeah. So we're gonna give this out to somebody in the community. So keep your eye out for this.
Damn, that's a clean looking book. I almost thought that was a facsimile because it looks so good.
Great. Yeah, it looks great. Yeah.
Wow. Nice. So make sure to give that a look, guys. Make sure to follow these guys. Links in the description. And any final thoughts to keep us all bullish here, boys? I need a little pick me up. I think instead of wine next time, I need like a coffee. But I want to hear it. Why am I staying in Vivi right now? I'm pissed off. They haven't delivered on a lot of things. I had this massive collection. I'm at a friggin' 60% loss. We're more and more saturation. Drops are happening all the time. There's no utility. I'm pissed off. Like, what am I? Sean, Danny, what the fuck do I do?
First of all, I'd say only 60%. You're doing better than me, mate. I'll be all right with that. I'll be happy with 60%.
Yeah.
No, it's just looking. You just got to zoom out and just think about what the reason you got into it in the first place.
I was just going to say that.
The IP it's the same reason we're here in the first place. Same reason we all got into it. It's going to take longer than we thought. I think it was sort of like we're blinded by the hype. That is like hype. That's what it is. Everyone got caught up in the hype. Everyone got caught up listening to people like Gary V and things like that. And I haven't heard from that guy in ages. I don't know where he is. Probably counting his money. I say just think about the reason that the value was there in the first place. Nothing's changed. It's just that the market sentiment's changed. So it's stick to your guns, and it's these opportunities are out there. This is the time where the money's made.
Yeah, 100%. And to add to what Danny just said, I mean, again, think about why you got involved in the first place. And if you know much about Web3 and you still believe in the future of Web3, regardless of where the market's at, then why should your sentiment change? Why should your opinion change about the value of these collectibles and where it's going? I mean, there's still the same collectibles you bought 6 to 12 months ago. Nothing's changed except for the value and the community's, feelings. But outside of that, it's all the same. And we're hearing news every day about people, big companies, massive corporations building in this space, spending millions and millions, if not billions of dollars in this space. And that's what you got to look at. You got to look at the big players and what they're doing, and they're all getting involved heavily in this space. They all believe in the future of the space. Facebook is all in on the space. They changed their name to Meta. So there's no reason why you shouldn't believe in it too. For that, I'm really excited for the future of Web3 and also AR and VR technology and all this stuff. It's going to be amazing. And also I'm just seeing how, going to an event, I really recommend you guys go to an event in person because you're going to feel that energy, that excitement. It's incredible. It's incredible talking to people in person and seeing Marvel and Vivi right next to each other, their names, sharing a booth at the next San Diego Comic-Con. Man, that was exhilarating. And it's only going to grow over time. And that, what's cool about that was seeing like physical comic collectors are kind of like still questioning about Vivi. I don't really get it. And I've gotten to know some of the content creators and going to San Diego Comic-Con and them seeing that for the first time. And they know like that Marvel booth is the biggest booth at Marvel. I mean, at San Diego Comic-Con, it's right in the center. It's front and center. And they came up to me like, holy shit, dude, that is insane. What? They're sharing a booth with Marvel. And that's when they, okay, I still don't get it, but I mean, I respect, I know that they're real. This is a real thing. And Marvel believes in it too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that should solidify it for any physical collector, like you said, because it's like there's the physical booth there with you, and it's like Marvel X Vivi. So, it can't be any more clear than that. So, listen, guys, you heard from two of the best in the space. That's why I wanted him on today. Not only to pick you up, but to pick me up too. We're all in this together. And like I said, man, I've been battling a lot of the FUD, and today I just kind of the war wounds got to me, man. I was like, I got a pain in my chest, my hip hurts. I'm like, things after a while, battling this stuff is difficult. But I like I said, I'm on the same page as you guys. I'm here. I haven't been selling. I've been collecting again. I have been taking some profits in the cycles. Sean knows that very well. But at the same time, like I see the long-term vision, man. And yeah, like we just got to see like what, in the next bull market, I think we'll all be laughing. So thanks, guys.
Cheers, man.
Thank you, Chad.